Few names in football command the kind of respect Denis Law does. A man who wasn't just a footballer, but a symbol of relentless passion, undeniable talent, and unshakable loyalty. From the dazzling heights of European glory to the painful battles against illness in his final years, his journey was one of triumph and tragedy. But how does a footballing legend, once hailed as the King of Old Trafford, find himself battling a fate crueler than any defender he ever faced? How did the man who lifted Manchester United to greatness in the 60s and 70s end up in a heartbreaking farewell that shook the football world? This is the final chapter of Denis Law, a tribute to his brilliance, his struggles, and the legacy that will never fade. A tale of a king who ruled the pitch but faced a battle no one could win. Rise to glory. Denis Law's journey to football. Greatness began in the streets of Aberdeen, Scotland. Born into a working-class family, his love for the game was evident from an early age. But few could have predicted that this skinny, spectacle-wearing boy would go on to become one of the greatest forwards in football history. His breakthrough came at Huddersfield Town, where legendary manager Bill Shankly saw raw potential in the young Scot. Under Shankly's guidance, Law's confidence and ability flourished, earning him a move to Manchester City in 1960. But it was in Italy with Torino, where he truly sharpened his skills. The brutal defensive tactics of Serie A toughened him up, and by the time Manchester United came calling in 1962, he was no longer just a promising talent. He was a lethal goal machine. At Old Trafford, Law became the beating heart of a team that would dominate English football. His partnership with George Best and Bobby Charlton formed the legendary Holy Trinity, a trio that defined an era. With Law's instinctive finishing, Best's dazzling dribbles, and Charlton's commanding presence, Manchester United became unstoppable. In 1964, Law's brilliance was recognized as he won the prestigious Ballon d'Or, cementing his status as one of the world's best. His goal-scoring exploits propelled United to league titles and a European Cup victory in 1968, a moment of redemption for a team still haunted by the Munich air disaster a decade earlier. But even kings have their battles. Injuries began to take their toll, and soon the decline would set in. The beginning of the end. For years, Denis Law was untouchable, a goal-scoring machine who thrived on instinct and fearless aggression. But even the greatest are not immune to time. By the late 1960s, injuries had begun to creep into his game, slowly chipping away at the explosiveness that made him so feared. Knee problems became a recurring nightmare, and despite his unwavering determination, his body could no longer keep up with his relentless style of play. The defining blow came in the early 1970s when multiple operations on his knee left him sidelined for long spells. Manchester United, once an all-conquering force, also began to crumble. Matt Busby had stepped down, and the club was sinking into turmoil. Law, once the driving force of United's attack, found himself struggling to make the same impact. In 1973, the unthinkable happened. Denis Law was released by Manchester United. After 11 legendary years, he was deemed surplus to requirements, but the twist in his career was far from over. He returned to Manchester, but not in red. Instead, he signed for United's fiercest rivals, Manchester City. It was a move that stunned the football world. Then came one of the most dramatic moments in football history. On April 27, 1974, Law faced his former club in a crucial derby. United, already on the brink of relegation, needed a miracle to survive. Late in the match, the ball fell to Law in the penalty area. Instinct took over. A single flick of his right boot sent the ball past the goalkeeper. It was the goal that sealed United's relegation. He didn't celebrate. Instead, Law walked off the pitch, devastated. He had just scored the goal that sent Manchester United down. That moment marked the symbolic end of his career, a tragic twist for a man who had given everything to the club. Retirement, struggles, and life after football. Denis Law's career effectively ended that day in 1974. The goal against Manchester United was his final defining act, and he retired shortly after the World Cup that summer. The man who had once been football royalty, adored by Old Trafford, walked away from the game with a heavy heart. But stepping off the pitch was only the beginning of a new battle, one far more challenging than anything he had faced in football. Retirement hit him hard. The adrenaline, the passion, the roar of the crowd, it was all gone. For years, he had lived in a world where his name commanded respect. Now he struggled with the emptiness that so many retired footballers face. The transition was brutal, and for a time, Law seemed lost. Financial difficulties followed. Unlike modern footballers who earn fortunes, Law played in an era where wages were modest. Despite his legendary status, he was not set for life. Investments failed, and at one point, he was forced to sell personal memorabilia to stay afloat. The sight of one of football's greatest icons facing money troubles was a stark reminder of how football had changed. While others profited from his legacy, he fought to maintain stability. Health problems soon emerged. In later years, Law suffered from prostate cancer, which he bravely battled. But it was in 2021 that the most devastating news came. He was diagnosed with both Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. The same mind that had orchestrated countless footballing masterpieces was now under attack. It was a cruel irony for a player whose intelligence and instinct had defined his career. Yet even in the face of these struggles, Law remained a fighter. His public appearances became rarer, but whenever he spoke, his love for football was clear. He remained an ambassador for Manchester United, a club that, despite the painful ending, would always be his home. Legacy and the emotional farewell. Denis Law was more than just a footballer. He was a symbol of passion, grit, and attacking brilliance. His influence stretched beyond his playing days, shaping generations of strikers who idolized his instincts, movement, and fearless style. Manchester United, Manchester City, and Scotland all claimed him as one of their greatest, but his impact was universal. He belonged to football. His contributions to the game were honored in various ways. In 2002, he was knighted by the Queen, officially becoming Sir Denis Law. His statue outside Old Trafford, alongside George Best and Bobby Charlton, immortalized his status as part of United's legendary Holy Trinity. It was a fitting tribute, a reminder of the golden era he helped create. But as Law aged, the world around him changed. The effects of Alzheimer's and vascular dementia became more evident. He began struggling with memories, the very essence of his footballing genius slowly fading. It was heartbreaking for those who had watched him dictate games with his intelligence and awareness. Fans, teammates, and clubs rallied around him, ensuring that his contributions would never be forgotten. When his passing was announced in 2024, tributes flooded in from across the footballing world. Manchester United held a moment of silence, while City and Scotland honored him in their own ways. The game had lost a legend, but his name would live on in every goal poacher, every fearless forward who dared to play with the same hunger he did. Denis Law never sought to be remembered as a superstar. He was a man who played football the only way he knew, with passion, commitment, and a burning desire to win. And for that, he will never be forgotten. Denis Law's story is one of triumph, heartbreak, and an enduring legacy that transcends generations. From the streets of Aberdeen to the grand stages of Old Trafford and Wembley, he played football with a fire that few could match. A European Cup winner, a Ballon d'Or recipient, and Scotland's joint top scorer, his name is etched in the history of football. But beyond the records and trophies, he was a fighter, a man who battled adversity, injuries, and, in his final years, a cruel illness that took away his sharpest weapon, his mind. Yet even as time dimmed his memory, the footballing world never forgot him. His statue outside Old Trafford, the echoes of his goals, and the admiration of millions ensure that Denis Law's name will live on. What are your thoughts on the king? How should football honor the legends who built the game we love? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next football documentary. The stories of football's greatest never fade, and neither will Denis Law.